And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Soul Survivor podcast. Ryan and I, for the first time in about 3 months, close to 3 months, are back to talk about Survivor 48, Episode 1, the season premiere, finally here, as the siren goes in the background, signaling to us that we are back. What is up, Ryan?
Dylan, what is up? I'm so glad to be back. Yes, it's been a couple of months. I know I've been busy with work. You've been busy with work. So I'm happy that we finally are here for the premiere. First time in a while, we haven't even previewed the cast. So you're going to hear all of our reactions live, as well as some other stuff happening in the Survivor universe. But we're here to talk about the important things, not the premiere. We're here to talk about, your favorite movie. What's your star sign? How do you get your steak cooked? So we're here to talk about the real questions, Dylan.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's tough to find common time to podcast these days between our work schedules. But so usually we've been previewing every season the cast. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do that this season, but luckily we're here right now, only a day after the episode, and we are going to break it all down for you. And I'm excited to talk about it. I have a lot of thoughts. We didn't really get to talk about it that extensively. I watched it pretty late last night. So this is the first time that we didn't even text that much back and forth. So we're really first time hearing each other's thoughts. So I'm excited.
Dylan, I'm excited too. I thought overall it was a very, very good premiere. I would say of the new era, definitely one of my more favorite, premieres. I'll be honest, as we looked at the cast, as I looked at the cast briefly pre-season, I didn't actually look at them that deeply compared to previous seasons. I wasn't sure how I felt about them at first. I kind of just didn't know how to react to certain players. But I will say after episode 1, I'm really liking a lot of people on this cast.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's always tough for me, at least with new seasons, because what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll read the pregame press, and it's hard to really get used to these players that are a new cast until a few weeks in, right? You don't really feel a connection with them. At least me personally, like it takes me a while to get used to a new cast. So we'll see what happens. I don't have any like truly strong opinions. So, but the bottom line I was going to say is since it takes me so long to kind of get used to a new cast, a premiere never really hits hard for me. I'll never like leave a premiere and be like, that was unbelievable, unless it's like a returning player season where it's like, oh my God, I haven't seen these people on TV in so long. And then it's like, wow, amazing. So, but that being said, I enjoyed this premiere a lot. So I think, overwhelmingly positive reviews from everybody that I've read about this premiere, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, Dylan, I guess we'll start as always. For those who are new, welcome, of course, and to all of our returning viewers, also welcome back as well, and listeners. What we typically do here is we usually start with our headline, and that's usually the person voted out, and we kind of go through that decision, since that's the most topical thing, saying, what are our thoughts? Was it the right choice? And then we usually go back and we go through the episode, and then, of course, we have some other business to take care of tonight as well. But yeah, Dylan, tonight's top story, and then I think this will also give us a chance to share our initial thoughts on some of these players as well, is Stephanie. Stephanie is our first player voted out of the Green Tribe. I believe Vula, although sometimes it's easier for people to go with the colors than the names. They're all 4 letters and they all sound the same nowadays. But the Green Tribe, Stephanie voted out. And yeah, Dylan, I think the main question that I've actually been hearing 2 questions, and I would love to hear your thoughts on these, that have come out of this episode is obviously number 1, was it the right choice? Because Kevin and Justin were in the middle on this vote. So was it the right choice for them to choose to vote out Stephanie over Say? And then the other question that's come out of this episode, especially in the new era, is, is it better to try to play like Stephanie, where you try to build more social bonds early on? Or is it better to play like Say and just hit the ground running and play very hard? So I think those are the 2 big things that I've been hearing.
Yes. My opinion, on the surface level, I think it's the wrong move to get out Stephanie over Say. Then again, you have to take into account that these people are not game bots and they're worried about a ricochet vote on an idol play. I mean, they literally know she has an idol. So I think it's hard for them to just, on the first vote out there, not do the easy vote and just sit there and be like, we're going to take the shot at Sei. And if she plays the idol, then, oh, wait, one of us are screwed. It'll probably be Stephanie. But, if, she plays shot in the dark, like it's tough. I think just the simple vote plays. And yeah, I think, a lot of people in that situation are just happy to survive the first vote. So I don't think they wanted to risk that with her having the idol. And I respect that. That being said, in a perfect world, if they had not known that she was playing the idol, then I think they would have been better off voting out Sei, because I think Stephanie is definitely probably would have been a more reliable alliance member. And Sei just seems like somebody who kind of, I heard this comp get thrown out there last night on Twitter, like kind of reminded me of how Rome came out into last season. She was just like almost more than Rome, probably. Like it was crazy.
Bless you.
Tried to mute it in time, didn't get there.
That's okay.
But yeah, I think Sei actually like was more loud and aggressive gameplay, played more aggressively than Rome. Like it was definitely interesting. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. What do you think? What would you have done if you were there, Sei or Stephanie? What do you think was the right move?
Yeah, so I think you actually bring up a really great point about Rome, because I think Rome is a really great comparison, and it was only just last season, where I think you can make an argument to me that in an alternate universe where Sei doesn't have the idol for the first tribal council, that Sei goes home. I think when you have the idol, it provides you that layer of protection. And like you said, that fear. Nobody wants to be the first voted out. So we all want to win, but nobody wants to be the first person voted out of the season. So when Sei has an idol and everybody on that beach, minus Mary and Steph, know she has an idol, they're thinking, well, crap, if we go for Sei and she plays her idol and we've betrayed her, then we're in a bad spot. What if it ricochets, like you mentioned? So I think in terms of like what was the right move to do, I do think Steph was the right move, maybe because on one hand, you had the fear of the idol, so things can't ricochet on you. And that happened to Rome last season. Rome had the idol. Sounds like Rome was, bothering a lot of people from what the cast said early on. But because he had the idol and he had a lot of other ammo in his pocket, I think he had like the extra vote or steal a vote or whatever he had. People were like, well, we don't want to go for Rome because Rome's got stuff. So that's a great comparison. I think that really is another reason why Sei was the person who stayed. So I do think it was the right choice to go for Stephanie in that case. And I also think, maybe you're a bit more nervous that Sei is going to play, hard against you. But I also feel like now Kevin and Justin being that swing vote, they know where the idol is. They seem to trust Cedric, so they don't want to isolate Cedric either. Plus, if Sei has the idol, you know where it is. You can always blindside her next week, possibly. Or if you stick with her for a while, maybe then she's a big shield in front of you. Ward gets out, she has the idol. She's an easy, shield in front of you. So I think for a couple of reasons, I do think it was the right choice to get rid of Stephanie. But I do think I could have easily seen a scenario where she doesn't have the idol and we're talking about Sei being the first out.
Yeah, I will tell you for sure that the viewers won with the vote out. I feel very confident about that. I think Sei was truly really entertaining. I mean, there's a reason she got 21 confessionals last night, which broke a record, literally. I mean, entertaining, like literally like must-see TV. So I'm good keeping her around. I don't think she'll be here long-term. I don't think she's going to make the merge. I think she'll be a good pre-merge character, and I'm open to seeing that for a couple more episodes. And I'll tell you what, one thing that me and you did correctly predict when we were texting each other was preseason, I should say. We didn't have the podcast to talk about this, but we pretty much said that Green was going to be in trouble because the purple and orange tribes are a lot stronger in terms of physical strength. So my guess is that Green might be going back to tribal council pretty often this season. So we'll have to see.
I gotta be honest, and I usually I'm not one to ring the rigged bell. I'm not one to kind of poo on production, although for some things. But I gotta say, Dylan, this is the first time in a while that I feel like these were very unbalanced because, like we were texting, me and your brother were like, Green kind of looks like the weaker tribe here. I mean, purple. I mean, for the fact that purple has, we'll talk about purple in a minute, but like Shaheen, Joe, Thomas, you add in then the combination of Star and Eva. That's a very strong tribe. I can't believe they didn't swap like Mary and Star, or they didn't swap like somebody, or like swap like Eva and Steph. Like the purple is stacked. And then orange is no slouch either. You know, they got David, Chrissy's a firefighter. You got Kyle. Like Green got the short end of the stick. So it does not surprise me by any stretch that Green was one who lost tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to continue to lose. We called it before the challenge last night. Like it was obvious to me that was going to happen, and almost they got it, almost. And then the puzzle started to fall apart, and it was a mess. But I mean, there are some good things about Green that we will talk about. But you know, we just brought up the Purple Tribe, and I think they were a huge story of this episode. Let's get into it, right? So we have the Purple Tribe, which was Joe. Shaheen, is that how you pronounce it? I'm not positive. Okay, Shaheen. Yeah. Thomas, Star, Eva, and Bianca. So that is your Purple Tribe. And like you said, I mean, it's almost like they took basically like out of the, let's say the top 10 most physical players in the season, they took 6 of them and were like, let's put them on one tribe. Unbelievable. I mean, they are going to, they might not lose before the merge. I have a feeling that this could be the tribe that really dominates numbers throughout. They're awesome to watch. I don't have any problems with anybody on that tribe so far. And in fact, I think that almost every time they showed the Purple Tribe, it was a good scene last night. I mean, you have the California Girls Alliance between the 3 guys. I mean, amazing. You got the moment we had with Joe and Eva, which everyone's talking about. That phenomenal emotional moment. Yeah. Really cool to see. Joe kind of strikes me as like an old school player in a new school season, I think, and I mean that in the best way possible. I think it's very rare to see emotional moments like that in new school Survivor, new era Survivor, where literally everybody that comes in is a huge super fan of the game and is like ready to hit the ground running and game. And now we have this moment between Joe and Eva, which is a legit emotional moment, which Survivor has lacked, you know, in the new era. And a lot of people have been calling for it. Well, you got it there. That was an awesome moment. I'm excited to see how that plays out throughout the season. And then again, Thomas, great. Shaheen, from everything we've seen, looks pretty good. Star, we didn't get much from her except for that she was running off for idols. So that's interesting. Bianca, we really didn't get much from her either, except for that Thomas wants to work with her. So, and like I said, Eva had the great moment with Joe, and she had a lot of great moments. The fact that she's out there is amazing. And also just, bringing the wood back and forth. That was another cool moment. So a lot of really good moments from Purple, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts so far.
Yeah, no, I definitely like this tribe a lot. I really, really love the moment with Eva and Joe. And I think I maybe, again, I will admit I did not look at the pregame press as much as I normally do, just because I've been very busy. And I probably briefly looked through Joe, and I maybe had a different opinion of Joe. I think Joe's great. I think Joe is so great. He's much more like emotional and, empathetic than I had initially, picked up on. And that was such a great scene. And it must have really resonated with him, the fact that he wanted to work with her right away as well. He is so, touched that she wanted to share this with him. And it almost sounded like he was even willing to I don't want to say like fall on his sword, but it almost sounded like he's like, listen, I'll work with her. And if I gotta take a hit to see her go far, I'll do it. Like, he really is all in on this. And I think Eva will also be a great player to watch as well. I thought it was really cool how she talked about like the positives and the negatives that come with having autism. And I have actually a couple of family members and friends who have worked in the past with people with autism. So I don't have like a ton of knowledge, but I have like secondhand knowledge from them. But it was really cool for her to talk about, like, listen, in terms of strengths, I'm driven, I am fixated, I will get a task done, I'm not going to give up. But as a negative, I'm not going to pick up on a lot of social cues, and that's going to be a problem in Survivor when people are lying to me, and I might, I might, react in certain ways, and I'm gonna need somebody to help, get me back grounded. And I think that was a great scene between her and Joe, that they were able to kind of like have that bond. So I do think this is a pair that we're going to see stick for a while.
Yeah, I think my first instinct is like they're going to go far. That's what I immediately think. But yeah, I think in terms of the rest of the tribe, Bianca is somebody that I think a lot of people in the community, from what I've read, and also just myself, just from reading the pregame press, pretty high hopes for her. And we really didn't get to see much of her. But I do want to say that the fact that Thomas was so vocal about wanting to work with her, I think is a good sign for her, because I think Thomas is going to be a player in this game based on what we saw yesterday. That's a good sign for her. Also, I will never rule, after what happened with Genevieve last season, I will never rule anyone out after one quiet episode. So, or even 2 or 3 quiet episodes.
No.
So looking forward to see her get more airtime maybe as the season goes on. Let's move over to the Orange Tribe, who we haven't really spoke about yet. You got David, who made a lot of waves yesterday. You got Kyle, you got Mitch, Charity, Camilla, and Chrissy. Is that her? Is it the firefighters? Chrissy. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are the 6 there. Again, another very physically strong tribe. Not as much as the purple, I don't think, but I think clearly stronger than green. And again, a lot of interesting characters here. I really like what we saw from Kyle. Like, he just strikes me as like kind of like maybe like a Caleb type player, like somebody who is very social, like very funny, somebody who people are going to be able to relate to. And I mean, could that make him a big threat down the road early? Yes. But he's somebody that, at least for the time being, I'm going to be, watching closely, because I think he has a lot of potential. Camilla, we saw a few really good moments from her. I really liked what I read from her in pregame press, like a lot. And then I saw, she said something like Boston Rob is like, his name is like banned from my friend group. And I was like, oh, I'm out on her now, but I might be back in. On her. She had a great episode. And then, yeah, I thought the way that she kind of just threw Charity's name under the bus without actually doing it, like she wasn't like, she did it without making it seem like she was the one to do it, which was really impressive work. So Charity seems to be a little bit on the outs. Mitch, kind of just like good vibes, right? I think he's going to be a player that a lot of fans really are drawn to this season. Again, just good vibes. I just feel like he's a great guy. Like that's basically what my takeaway from him is. We didn't get too much from Chrissy, but everything we got from her was good. And then David is just, that guy's going to be a character. No other words for that.
It's all that chocolate milk he drinks. He drinks a lot of chocolate milk, and that's how he's got those muscles.
And he avoids water at all costs.
I could not believe he said that.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Yeah, I stay away from water.
As I drink like 10 of these a day.
But yeah, no. So Orange, I mean, definitely the tribe we got the least from. I think we obviously focused a lot with Green Tribal Council, and Purple got a lot of good intel. I think Orange we had the least from. But I think it was the same story across all 3 tribes, where they all have some people that are kind of on the outs, right? Where on this Orange tribe, Charity's a bit on the outs because, whether she didn't connect in some of the social elements of the game so far with the camp conversations. She also kind of throws Kyle's name out, which is not a great sign because, and by the way, I'll give her a little bit of a knock as well. I know it's the first episode and we don't get to see everything. So, clearly there's stuff not being shown, but, I feel like she was in camp when Camilla and Kyle were bonding about like, oh, I love holes. You love holes. I love, whatever. I'm also an Aquarius, whatever air sign, whatever it is. So I feel like if I was out there, I would have picked up on they were connecting on a lot of things. So for her to go to Camilla and say, how do you feel about Kyle? I'm not sure how I feel about him. Thought that was an initial slip up on her part. And then it doesn't surprise me then when, Camilla and Kyle team up with Chrissy and David, have a 4-person group there, leaving Charity and then also Mitch on the outs. But yeah, no, a little slip up from Charity there. But other than that, there really wasn't too much else from Orange other than just seeing their initial reactions to each other and dynamics.
Yeah, one thing that keeps popping into my mind is that Jeff mentioned in pregame press that this season is about, I believe the word he uses, partnerships. And I mean, we have Joe and Eva, looks like a strong pair immediately. Camilla and Kyle immediately looks like a strong pair. They had some like crazy similarities that were just like what, like WTF, like what's going on here? And every time that like they described one thing about like themselves, the other was like, oh, it's me too. And it was just like a really crazy thing. Look for them to be a strong pair, I would assume as well. And then I think I got hints at least from another strong pair. And let's move over now. I know we spoke briefly about Green in terms of the vote, but I don't think we got into too much of like the characters there and players there. So let's talk about it. I am getting vibes of Mary and Kevin potentially being a pair to look out for. I think Mary voted wrong and differently from Kevin, but we consistently, every time we heard from Mary, was hearing, I'm getting good vibes from Kevin, and Kevin kept saying, I want to work with Mary. So I think that just because they were separate votes, voted separate ways this time, I have a vibe that they're going to work together. I think they kind of hinted at that a lot last night. So, I mean, I want to say Kevin did a great job last night. I think he positioned himself perfectly in the middle, and he has multiple pairs already, right? I mentioned, I think that his pair with Mary is going to be the one that sticks, but he also has a pair with Justin, the pizza guy, and also was, kind of close with Say, and like and Cedric, and he kind of had everything going for him. I think Kevin is the player I'm most interested in on the Green Tribe. I think he has a lot of potential. And it's funny because before the game, I was like, he wasn't on my radar really, but immediately gets hurt in the first challenge. And then they're just like, oh, we'll send you on the journey because you got hurt. And I was like, we were all looking at each other. Me and my brother were watching together. We're looking at each other like, what are we sending the guy that just hurt his shoulder, apparently dislocated it per Mike Bloom? What are we sending this guy on the task for?
Mm-hmm.
And then he ends up winning the task because Kyle breaks his glass. And let's not forget, I'm curious. I want to hear your thoughts on Green first, but a very interesting moment between Kyle and Kevin as well and the journey. But I want to hear your thoughts on Green first, and then we'll get into that.
Yeah, so I'll share Green, and then we can, like you said, go back to the opening challenge and the face off for the supplies. Yeah, I agree. I think Kevin and Mary will stay as an alliance. I don't think she's going to immediately be like, oh no, he voted against me with Stephanie, so I can't work with him. I think they'll get back together. I think Kevin has a lot of opportunities to say like, look, other people were voting this way. I just wanted to vote with them. And, I was nervous about her shot in the dark. And then also, by the way, I could totally see him being like, Say has an idol, and that's why I was scared to vote for her. There's a lot of avenues that Kevin can say to get back. It's gonna be very hard to use the word "say" this season. I just realized. It's gonna be very, I think, easy for Kevin to get back in Mary's good graces. So I'm not worried about that pair. And I do think that the 4-person alliance so far is pretty good. But obviously, if Say continues to play hard, and I mean, obviously Mary's now on the out, so Mary will probably be the target next week, of course, unless Kevin puts his foot down and says, I don't want to lose Mary, and then maybe, Say gets herself voted out. But otherwise, that tribe overall seems pretty straightforward. And then I guess, like you mentioned with Kevin, I thought he had a great episode. Like you said, he really went from the bottom to the top, where he, has a Stephanie where he dislocates his shoulder, to him now having a lot of different options and having a lot of different avenues he can explore socially. And I actually had the opposite opinion of you, where I think I actually got a great vibe, or I got a lot from Kevin in the preseason, but so much so that I was like, oh no, he's not going to win because he's too big of a threat. Because for me, Kevin has, the intelligence, he's got the physicality, he seems good socially. I'm like, oh, he's like that triple package where, like, if I was drafting, I'd be like, oh, he's too good, I can't take him. But he really did a great job. Kevin probably was the main character, so to say, of like the first episode, other than Say herself. But yeah, how crazy is that he dislocated his shoulder and they didn't even show it on the they thought we saw him hurt his shoulder, but we didn't see them like pop it back into place.
Yeah, I don't know how good that is for his winner equity that they didn't show it, but at the same time, there's a lot to fit in the episode. You never know. It probably wasn't that irrelevant. We've seen the medical out there a zillion times. We don't need to see it again. But and the moment with him and Kyle, first of all, no Savvy and Sweat once again, good stuff. We didn't need to see it again. They didn't do it last season. We didn't do it this season. I thought it was an interesting challenge. The only thing is, like, I hate that the glass is so easily broken. It happens, but I thought it was a really like savvy move. Not to bring back the Savvy Sweat, but savvy move by Kyle to kind of just be like, I lost already. Let me help Kevin and build a relationship instead of just sitting there sulking, which 90%, I would say, of players would be like crying or down that they didn't get it. And he was just like, all right, I didn't get it. Let me, make a friend in Kevin. So Kevin did not only make bonds with Green, he also made a bond with Kyle. And Kyle did not only make bonds with Orange, he made a bond with Kevin. Those journeys are huge. You got to take advantage of them, especially this early in the game. You never know if there's going to be a tribe swap as well. So really good stuff by them. And then the other thing about Kyle coming back from this journey, I was super impressed. Kind of what made me what kind of put the light bulb in my head, besides the fact that I was pretty high on my pregame press, but what really put the light bulb in my head of wow, this guy could be a threat is as soon as he came back from there, usually, he comes back with nothing. People are going to be like, he went for an advantage. And David was like, I can immediately tell he's telling the truth. That guy's not lying to me. I believe everything he says. And I'm like, wow, very not something we've seen often, and really good on Kyle's part to the point where people just see him as a good guy. I think it's a good move, for him to be like, I'm an English teacher. I think it's the least threatening job ever. If I were you're an English teacher, he kind of fits. I could see him being a teacher too. If I was out there, I'd believe him. I don't think he appears he doesn't have the personality of a lawyer, in my opinion. So I think it was good for him to hide that. And I think people see him as less threatening because he did that. So good on him. Kyle had an awesome episode. Kevin had an awesome episode.
Yeah, I really like Kevin. I really like Kyle. There's a couple other people I'm really liking one episode in. I think they didn't show it, but I feel like I've never once heard somebody come back from a journey or come back from a showdown or whatever you want to call it, and they've been like, yeah, I didn't win because I broke the thing, which I feel like no one's lying about breaking something, because it never happens. It happened to Jake a couple seasons ago, but no one ever breaks a challenge, honestly. So they didn't show that, but I could easily see him being like, yeah, that's what happened. And David's like, nah, man, you're good. No worries. It happens. But no, Kyle just has a nice presence about him. I had a feeling preseason that people were going to want to work with him and like him, as long as he had mentioned, that he's a lawyer, because lawyers typically, don't do that well on Survivor. But no, I had good vibes from Kyle, and I agree with you. I really like this showdown, the thing for supplies, the new Savvy Sweat. I know last season Asia and TK faced off, and that was pretty cool. But I thought this was really great, Dylan, because I've always loved, and maybe it's because I like watching, some of those challenge hacks, or how Prettium does the challenge hacks. But I love when I see people solve a puzzle in a different way. And this whole challenge being you gotta get all three of these supplies, but you can solve this in a lot of different ways. With the pots, Kevin was trying to slide the thing off, and then Kyle was like, nah, I'm just gonna break the tree down. I was watching at a bar with some friends, and people were immediately they would just take all their weight and just drop their weight on the pole just to kind of snap it and get the pot. But no, I really like this challenge, just to see people solve it in different ways.
Yeah, I thought this was fun. So hopefully more of this. I like two players battling it out for supplies. Cool stuff to see. What were your thoughts on, I think the other thing we spoke about, Say getting the idol?
Oh, yeah.
We didn't speak about yes, Beware Advantage back. Okay, we expected, I think, just a new era staple at this point. Maybe it's something we vote in the future for season 50 if they return. And while I'm on that topic, if you're watching right now and have any questions about Survivor 50, I think we'll address that in the last 10 minutes of the show.
Sure.
We'll talk about season 50 since we haven't had the preseason pod. So we haven't had any chance to talk about that yet. So last 10 minutes we'll dedicate to season 50. If you have any questions, drop them into the chat. If you have any questions and you're watching this not live, still drop them into the comment section. We'll get back to you. But yeah, maybe we'll vote on it, beware advantages for season 50. But right now they're still there. But I thought there was like a super creative puzzle. And like having the animals painted around camp in different colors is super suspicious. And I think it's really funny that the Orange Tribe started trying to solve the puzzle, but they didn't actually find the beware advantage yet.
Yeah.
So it's like they're thinking that it's some kind of puzzle and they don't know it's attached to beware advantage yet. So I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. It's like they've tried to start solving the puzzle without actually getting the code yet. So it's like they're working backwards, which is interesting. And yeah, I thought it was fun to like try to figure that out from the couch. I don't know if you were able to catch on to what that was going to be. But once each letter was in a different color, I kind of figured out what it was going to be.
Yeah, I love this. And maybe it's because I'm a big fan of escape rooms. So I love seeing these types of things like with cryptograms and puzzles and whatnot. I actually think when I heard Say and Cedric saying the letters, like, okay, we got an S, we got a T, an I, an L, I was like, oh, I think it's listen. But no, I love this a lot. I will give Survivor a lot of credit. I know we kind of like shit on the beware advantages and losing votes and whatnot, and we can get into that debate, especially when we talk about 50. But I will give them credit that ever since they got past the silly phrases, I've really liked how they've done these unique, different challenges to get advantages and idols, Dylan. Now I obviously wish there was no beware element. I wish it was just like you just simply get the idol or you don't. But I will say between the beads in 43, the cages in 44, this cryptogram, the whole thing with like the idol and the wax from 45, I'll give them credit and say they've been very creative with these idols and stuff. So that's really cool. And I think the other thing, Dylan, is that I think what we've been seeing from Survivor is, because this has been a classic debate between Rob and Steven on the podcast for a long time, is like, do you tell people about idols or do you not? Because it either builds trust or it opens up a target on your back. And for a while, I feel like I've been in the camp of like old school. You don't tell people. It's very dangerous to tell one person because then everybody knows. But I feel like the way that these beware advantages or the way that these idols have like kind of grown, you almost can't do it alone. Like there's no way that Say would have been able to run around camp, finding all the symbols, deciphering this without Cedric and Justin and Kevin being like, oh, yeah, I'll help you here. Or if somebody says where's Say, I'll tell them, oh, she's just getting some wood. You need people's help. I don't think you can do this all by yourself or it's going to never get done or be very suspicious. So I do like seeing the evolution where you almost kind of need to tell people and kind of just figure out how you're going to have them still kind of trust you in a way. Oh, I think you might be muted.
And like you said, better off telling people about the idol than being caught running around trying to find the animal paintings and everyone being like, what's going on here? Then you're really screwed. That's kind of like what happened to Star without actually finding it yet. So I think that was I think the move with idols after watching, this is the 8th time now we're watching a New Era season. And the move, I think, is to early on tell people about your idol, not too many, but tell people you trust about the idol. And then as the game goes on, once you hit the merge, that's when you could do a Rachel and not tell people about your idol.
I agree with that. I also think I'm looking for a tweet from, because I saw a really great tweet a couple days ago from an Australian Survivor player, and I wish I could find it. But basically it's the same type of thing, like you said, where it's like, you kind of have to tell like, one person and you kind of need to like make your alliance and really establish that bond. I'll find it later, but basically what I think it was Ferris, I believe, from Australian Survivor, but he was like, even if you tell people on day one, like, hey, I really like you, I want to work with you, I'll let you know if I hear your name. Even if you say to them, like, listen, do you want to like, go get wood together, maybe like look for an idol while we're out there? Like even just doing that immediately kind of like bonds you guys together because you're doing something together listen, everybody wants an idol, but nobody wants to be like with Star. Nobody wants to be caught looking for her. Nobody wants to be on their own. So even if you tell people, hey, I'm going to go get some wood, come with me, maybe we'll find something together, that also bonds you. So I think that's kind of how the strategy of the game has also evolved.
Yeah, for sure. Next thing I wanted to talk about, this is so random, but I think it's somebody that we haven't really mentioned before. Justin wearing a shirt that says pizza. Okay. And every single time we hear the guy talk, he talks about pizza. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I think it's like a hilarious bit. I think they're doing it on purpose, and maybe he also talks about it a lot, but it's just it's comedy. This guy, every analogy is like, oh, it's when flipping the pizzas in the kitchen, like, oh, it's like at the restaurant, like every time, and just him wearing the pizza shirt is so perfect. It's so perfect. This guy's entire personality, his entire self is being a pizza guy. And that's awesome. And it's funny to watch.
He's a vibes guy. One bite. He's a vibes guy. I would say, like, yeah, we're going to get onto episode 6, and then Jeff's going to be like, Justin, give me another metaphor. And Justin's going to be like, Survivor is like, trying different toppings on pizza. I may not like pineapple on pizza, but I want to make sure I at least give it a try, and I want to make sure I at least let people know that I'm open to different options. And like, there's going to be an analogy every single week or a metaphor with pizza from Justin. I can't take too long, like a delivery. If you take too long, you won't get tipped, and I want to get tipped in this game, and my tip's $1 million. Like, there's going to be a million different pizza metaphors. But yeah, Justin didn't like jump off the page for me in the preseason or in the episode, but he definitely seems like a very chill person. And I feel like I don't see him getting, especially if he contributes in challenges, I don't see him getting targeted right away.
Interesting. I kind of got an opposite vibe. I think I don't think he's going to be in the game long. That partially because Green is in trouble.
Yeah.
And the other part is like, I just don't know if I see it. I think Mary, even though she voted the wrong way, I'm high on Mary. I think she'll integrate well. I think her being close with Kevin is huge because Kevin is connected to everybody. Mm-hmm. So I think those two are like going to be the focal point of the tribe eventually. I think we'll eventually get to that point. And then it's like, I think these other players, in my opinion, are in trouble because I think they're going to lose a lot. And if they don't get swapped, it could even be worse. The other thing is, like, we kind of saw him make a bond with Kevin. We didn't really, like, he was also part of the 4, but we didn't really see, like, him one-on-one making bonds. I kind of just got a sense that, like, he was part of the group because he was standing next to Say at the right time. So I think Say's in trouble. I think Justin is in trouble. Cedric, I'm unsure. I think, I don't know. I'm unsure. I'm not necessarily too high on him either. But I didn't really get anything to steer me like in that completely that way. So I just my 2 players that I'm high on are Mary and Kevin from this tribe. Other than that, I was not impressed. So we'll have to see. I was impressed by Say in terms of her character. She is awesome. I was not impressed by the gameplay.
Yeah. I'll be clear. I just, from a character standpoint, I really like Mary as well. So I do like her. I think she's very funny on Twitter. She's also very witty as well. I am just concerned, though, that if Green loses, I do think, as it stands right now, it'll be either Mary or Say. I feel like Kevin's in a great spot. Justin seems to be still in the middle. And I feel like people so far seem to like Cedric. So I would still be on the bandwagon of, if it's not Say next week as a threat, then Mary probably is gone. Those are my 2 from Green. And I think it's similar across all tribes, where it's like, I think it's, either Mary or Say. And then on Purple, I think it's Star or potentially Bianca. And then on Orange, it's either Mitch or Charity. There's basically, like, I would say 2 people on each tribe I can be like, that's probably who's the most in trouble. Because every tribe at this point has a 4-person alliance. So
yes, for sure. 1 to 2 people on each tribe, I think. And again, it could flip in an instant.
Of course, yeah.
There was a point in last season where Rachel was in one of those 1 to 2 people that could go home on her tribe, and then boom, she gets through and everything flips, right? So you never know. Yeah. I will say we're 40 minutes into the podcast. I will say, you know, we've pretty much touched on like almost everything. I think overall, if I had to give like an overall take, I do see potential in the season.
Yeah.
I'm always super wary of expectations, especially coming off a really great season. Like I was very high on 45, and then going into 46, I was like, they have a lot to live up to. And 46 did not get off to a good start and then eventually recovered, and it ended up being a fine season.
Yeah.
47 was, I think, the best of the new era for me. Really, really good. And I feel the same way for 48 as I do 46. I think 48 has a lot to live up to, but I think they showed us potential that, you know, they could live up to it potentially. So I'm excited to see what happens going forward.
Yeah, no, you're correct. Like one episode in, it's so early, you never know what could happen. Like you mentioned, 44 with the medevac, 45 being the quits, 46 Banu. Like so these seasons all got off to very slow starts, and some of them got, you know, very good. Some started better than others and ended up good, and then some started great and ended up bad. So yeah, one episode in, I liked it. I would say, like I mentioned at the start, one of the stronger premieres that we've had. So I do have a pretty good feeling thus far. And I really do like this cast. And I think this is the first cast in a while where I think other casts I had stronger opinions on heading into the season. And maybe just because I came into this season a little more underprepared, they felt more fresh to me. So that's why I have a pretty good feeling to start. And yeah, and even though this first episode, nothing like crazy happened, it was a pretty clear bilateral choice, like either, you know, Steph or Say. Ended up being a pretty straightforward vote in the end. But no, I still thought it was pretty good. And I think the last thing I'll say about this episode, from my perspective, going back to the whole decision, is again, Say wanting to play very hard and Steph wanting to play slow. Because again, I could see it both ways, Dylan, where it's like, yes, it's the new era. You want to play fast. You want to play hard. It's a 26-day game. You can't wait too long or the game's going to pass you by. But by the same token, if you think about Steph, I can't blame her for wanting to make bonds early on, because it's like, you know, look at Jam Jam, look at Kenzie, look at Marianne, Eric. A lot of our new era winners, you know, are more social players. Obviously, you have some, you know, multifaceted threats like Rachel and Dee and whatnot. But like a lot of our new era winners are social players. So I can completely understand why you want to play slow. But I think Rob had a really great point on the podcast as well, where like you really have to just like, read the room. Like obviously, you know, Say wants to play hard, maybe not best to talk like, oh, let's kind of catch up. Let me know your family. Like Say is not gonna deal with that. So it's about reading the room. But I think it also really, really depends, because I've never considered this before. It really depends on how strong your tribe is. Because I think if your tribe is strong, like Purple, you could take all the time in the world, make your alliances. Purple's not going to lose. Like Thomas is out there making alliances with everybody. People like Thomas, like, you can take your time and play slow because you're not going to lose. If you are green and you're going to keep losing and losing because you're just weaker, you got to play more aggressive. So I think it really depends on the situation that you're in. So,
oh yeah, for sure. I think those are really good, valid points.
Yeah.
Let's get to it. The elephant in the room, season 50. Let's talk about it. In the hands of the fans.
Wow.
We got the logo already. And it's so funny. I got to tell everybody this story quickly. Last week, when the news came out about the theme of Survivor 50, I had refreshed Instagram, and the first thing that popped up on the feed was Jeff from the Survivor page and the video. And on the screen, it says Survivor 50 will be in the hands of the fans. And immediately, without watching the video, without turning the volume on, I copied the link, texted Ryan and texted my brother and said, fan vote for season 50. And we were going crazy. And then I watched the video and I was like, oh, it's not a cast vote. It's a actual fan vote about the season. So I think it's a little bit, I would say, one, I'm still very excited that the fans are voting on the game aspects. Two, I'm excited that Survivor is willing to change the season to include old school aspects as well as new era aspects, depending on what the fans say. Three, I wish that they would have fully committed to in the hands of the fans and let us vote on the cast, but I understand of why they didn't want to do that. I think they have people that they want to cast. They want to make sure certain people get on. It is what it is. But I'm really excited. We got a lot of stuff to vote on. The voting opened last night. We go over that. Votes was you had to vote tribe colors. You had to vote fire or no fire. You had to vote rice or no rice. And you had to vote about a live reunion show or reveal in Fiji. Ryan, let's start with that. I'll get this out of the way. I voted on red, green, and yellow tribe colors. I voted no rice. I voted no fire making in the final four. And I voted live reunion in LA. I have a feeling that these are going to probably be the popular answers. But I'm curious to hear what you have to say. And, I was definitely swayed by you and my brother in one way for a vote. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, I will. Before I say my votes, and by the way, we have a podcast. We should use our platform to really, promote what we want to happen. I mean, it's in our hands, like literally. No, really quickly, I'll just say that this is so cool. Would have loved another fan votes for the cast. I understand why they didn't do it because, like you said, they have people they want to cast, but also I think Second Chance was very unique. That Jeff went on record saying like those people wanted a second chance so bad that they would be willing to go through a public vote where they knew they could lose. So I don't think they're going to do that again to players, but just the fact that we can shape the bulk of the season, it sounds like the only thing that we really can't shift because of production reasons is 26 days, which kind of sucks. I wish we could vote for 39, but I get it. They have a contract. They have production costs. I get it. But even the live reunion, like we're going to basically be voting on everything for the season, which I think is extremely cool. And Dylan, I think this is the right answer because I think you and I were on record saying for years, like, what can they really do for 50? Like, you did all winners. Like, what can you really do after that? And we were like, second chance too, but that's not the same thing as winners. And then like old school, old era, new era. To literally put it in our hands is I think the best case scenario. So I think that's really cool. I'm very excited to vote throughout the season. So what I voted for, and I'm very curious to see what happens. And by the way, last thing I'll really quickly say is it's awesome that Jeff already confirmed we're not going to reveal the votes publicly, and the players won't even know till they get out there. So no one will find out till they get out there. No head starts, no like gaming the system. It's perfect. For the colors, I'll be honest. I wish I voted for red, yellow, and green because that brings me back to All Stars and those colors. I wish I did that. I didn't think of it until after I voted, and I wanted to change my vote, and I don't think you can change your votes. I voted for the colors that people were voting for online. I think like the orange, blue, and pink because it was like kind of like Marquesa colors with like the green, blue, and pink. So I did that, but colors or whatever to me. The rice, I voted for rice just because I feel like, I old school, you gave them rice to start. I'm okay with it. Out of all four choices, that one I'm very curious about because I saw both opinions online where I would guess right now the vote's probably like 60-40 where people are very torn on rice or no rice. The colors can be whatever. Fire making, Dylan, people are so excited, and not just excited, people are so determined to get no fire making through, which I voted for and you voted for it. And I think that's what a lot of people are voting for. If you look at how they worded this on the vote, Dylan, they're like, I'm going to pull this up, by the way, just because it's ludicrous. Really,
I've heard all the complaints about this, but yes, read it.
I don't mind. I just find it hysterical that Survivor is like, wording it in this way, just because it's like, you can tell production really, really wants fire making to stay. And I think they realize that it's not going to stick. So they're doing everything they can. Just give me 1 second here. Oh, okay. Final Four fire making has delivered some of the most dramatic moments in Survivor history, but not every fan is on board. Where do you stand? Should we keep it? It gives players control of their destiny. B, let them vote someone out, just like the early seasons. That is stacking right there. They do not want fire making to go. But I can tell you right now, based on the what I saw at the bar and what I'm seeing online, that's going to be a slam dunk. I think people want it gone unless the casuals win.
I have okay. This was the vote that you swayed me on, and my brother swayed me on. I don't mind fire making. I like it in some situations. I like giving potentially the better player a chance other than immunity to get to the final three or final three in this scenario. Yes. That being said, like there's part of me that with the new era, I've watched the same format for so many years in a row now. And I'm just like, I kind of want to just switch it up for one season. And I think this season will have a good blend of both some new era, aspects and some old era aspects. And I'm like, you know what? We've seen fire making so many seasons in a row. Let's just go away with it for the season. So I ended up voting no fire making. That being said, I think fire making is going to stay, and I think fire making is going to win. I think this is one of those things that I saw a tweet about this. I think the Survivor community and the diehards don't want fire making. I think that the fire making will win with the casuals very heavily. And that's why I ultimately think it does stay. But it should be super interesting to see what happens because it's so overwhelming in the deep fan, super fan community.
Yeah. No, I will agree with you. That vote, even though I'm speaking from a super fan perspective, that I think a lot of the community will vote against it. You're completely correct that there are some people in the community, like yourself initially, that like fire making. And I think if I had to poll the casuals, like my dad, who will watch week after week, but he will not, listen to podcasts, will not talk about it. He just is very casual. He would vote probably for it. It's like, I feel like a lot of the casual viewers will vote for it, which is why I agree with you that I feel like I would like to think it's a slam dunk, but I could easily see fire making staying, but at least we got a chance to vote on it. But Dylan, the clear slam dunk here is obviously the reunion. I can't think of anybody who is on their stump saying, I love the after show. It's so raw. It's so great. I love it. Right. No, bring back the live reunion. It's been way too long. Not since 39. Out of everything there. Listen, I don't like fire making. I'll even take fire making back if it means we get a live reunion. So we need it.
I legitimately think that might be like a 98-2 vote.
Yes,
I don't understand who would. The 2% will be people that accidentally press the wrong button.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Other things. So it looks like the 49 cast was finalized from what I've read, which means that we should be getting pretty close to having the season 50 cast finalized. The question is, when will it leak out? I'm curious. Obviously, it doesn't film until June. That being said, I like to think that we will find out some names sooner rather than later with all the info that's flowing around. If you had to pick one name that if you were given a scenario and you said you win $1 million if you get one name correct on the season 50 cast, who would you pick as your pick? That will definitely be on season 50. You win $1 million if you get that person right.
Oh my God. I didn't think you were going to ask me that. That's hard. Like, who do I think is a lock?
Who is that much of a lock that you would pick?
Oh my God. Who is a lock? Well, I have a name in mind, but I won't say that name because it's cheating. Because we were talking about a name earlier that may have been accidentally leaked by somebody. So
it can count. You could do it.
All right. I
don't know. It might not be true.
It may not be true. I feel like
if that. So okay, what Ryan is referring to is that earlier today on Twitter there were some rumors floating around that Cirie that Parvati said on a podcast, and I saw the clip. Parvati was like, "Oh, is it crazy? Isn't it crazy that you're really going to go back out there after we just filmed Australia versus US Survivor?" And she was like, and she didn't say anything. And then whoever the third person was in the podcast was like, "Oh, did I just hear what I thought I heard?" And Cirie was like, I don't know. I don't know. And then other people were like, well, it could just be Parvati stirring the pot. She's not going back. It could just be her stirring the pot. So we don't know if it's true. I feel like even if that clip was not out there, then I feel like Cirie would probably be in our top 3 of I feel like it's probably going to happen. So you could say Cirie, but if you had to say, if you don't want to say Cirie, you also don't have to.
Yeah, no, if I had to go back to pre-40, I would obviously say Cirie. And I'm also biased because I love Suri. And it also would crush me if she lost again. So maybe it's best if she's not out there, because if she loses it for a fifth time, I can't deal with that. But Jeff had actually a very interesting quote from an interview, because he's doing all the press right now. And basically when people are like, oh, like, is everybody considered? And Jeff's like, I want this cast to satisfy everybody. We want a cast that represents all players spanning all eras, all the way back to season 1. People all the way back are under consideration. So anybody and everybody can be considered. Obviously, Dylan, I think we've talked about this before. I do feel like, just for recency bias, it'll probably skew a little bit more new era, which is understandable. But if I didn't say Suri based on not hearing, that interview tease from earlier, I feel like new era, the two names I go back to most recently, I feel like, is like which characters do you remember from Survivor? I feel like Carolyn is a very easy answer for me. We can put the whole traders thing aside, but I do think Carolyn's an easy answer. Maybe even Q, just because I feel like Q was such a unique character that jumped off the screen. Like, I feel like I haven't seen anyone like Q in a while. Those are two more recent names to me. I feel like if I want to go back to like early late 30s, I mean, Christian was like at the height of his popularity. Maybe it's been too long since Christian, but I feel like Christian for a while was such a slam dunk name. But those are some initial thoughts.
Yeah, my answer would have been Suri, Carolyn, and Jesse probably. I feel like those three will be there. So I'm going to go with those three. I saw a tweet that was like, it's very obvious. The tweet was like, it's very obvious who is in casting right now for 50 and who is not, if you pay attention to social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, thinking about what that meant. And, I mean, I don't know what like that person is getting at completely, but I think that, I think Q is in casting. I think Jesse's in casting. They're all like sharing the link of the vote. Charlie sharing the link of the vote. Like, I don't know, but like those are like obvious people that, could easily be on the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if any of those people are in casting. If all of them are in cast, if one of them is not even in casting, I'd probably be surprised. So
let me ask you a question. So, and I think you're right. I don't think the cast is finalized yet. I would say
I think that they probably have a pool of like 30 something, and they need to get it down to 18 or whatever. Yeah.
I think it's either like almost there, or it might be like just getting finalized now. But I think anybody's up for grabs. I think the real interesting question I have for you is, do you think we're going to get like, if Jeff is really saying we're going to span all eras to cater to all fans of the show, do you think we're going to get like a season 1, 2, or 3 player? I feel like I have a feeling we're going to get one person, maybe hopefully more, but I have a feeling we're going to get one person from like Borneo or Australia. I feel like.
Yes.
Which would be crazy. Which would be crazy.
Well, he like referenced, I think, Jeff, I saw a clip where he said like, like going back to season 1. So maybe he has someone in mind that is ready to come out. I don't know if to me, I find it hard to believe that a player that's only played once is coming back on in season 50. To me, it's going to be somebody, if there's a player that plays from season 1, it's going to be one of the players that has come back since, which would mean limit it down to like a few.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Listen, Dylan, all I'm going to say is that you'll be happy if Genevieve is there. And if there's one name, here's actually one more fun question, because I have my answer for this. What's one name of any player, it could be Suri, but any player you would put on the cast that would break Twitter? Because I think I have my answer based on some of
What do you mean by that? That would break Twitter in a good way or a bad way?
In a good way. I'm not referring to Banu. Like, I'm like, in a good way, break Twitter.
The name that would break Twitter the most if they were on it is Amanda Kimmel.
Amanda Kimmel.
She will not be on it. The second name that would break Twitter if they were on it, Russell Hantz. He will also not be there. Our old friend Russell, who we podcasted with 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago at this point. Crazy. He will not be there if I had to take a guess. I don't think Amanda Kimmel would be there if I had to take a guess. I think there are other names though that like if on would break Survivor Twitter, like the Jerrys of the world, the Courtneys of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. People like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're out there. the coaches of the world. Like those players easily could be in play again.
Yeah.
We haven't seen them in a while, but I think those would be exciting for a lot of Survivor fans.
I think it's excited because like the possibilities are endless. Like it really could be anybody or anybody, which is exciting.
So. It could be. And then at the same time, the best part about this is that there will be, and this is completely guaranteed, there will be at least 2 to 3 players out of the 18. And it looks like it's going to be 18 because they gave us 3 tribe options for the colors. So I'm guessing it's going to be 18 players, not 20. Out of the 18, there will be 2 to 3 what the fuck options. That is guaranteed. If you look at any season in the history of Survivor, whether it be 34, especially game changers, where just some of the players that were on that cast, you were like, how is that even possible? 31, I mean, Kelly Wentworth, like a what type of thing. It goes on to be one of the most liked characters in the history of the show. Like, there will be WTF choices. Some of them may not make sense. Others you just have to trust that Survivor understands what they're doing. And you never know. You could get another Kelly Wentworth who goes back out there for a second time and is really, really good and becomes a fan favorite. So it'll be interesting to see who that person is. If you had, you just said to me, oh, I'll be happy if Genevieve's out there. Yeah, I'll give you the names that if I was building the season have to be out there. Give me Kelly Wentworth, give me Genevieve, give me Dom, and give me Christian. I don't care about the rest of the cast. If I have those 4, the season will be a success for me.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the majority of players, I think, will get the fans excited. Some surprising choices, but that's just casting. I do hope one of the things we can vote for is 2 tribes or 3 tribes. I know you mentioned 3 colors on the voting panel. People did point out that could just be general color schemes, and that could be the 2 tribes in the merge tribe. It probably is 3 tribes. I just don't know how you have season 50 and you have 18. I feel like you need at least 20 for 50. So that's what I'm hoping for. But maybe it'll be like 2 tribes in the merge. But I mean, listen, I would love more than 20, but I feel like you need at least 20 for the 50th season. So
one more thing that I need to rant about quickly, and this is getting so far ahead of itself. After season 50, we need to get consistent returnee seasons. We cannot go another 10 seasons without seeing returnees. Give me a season 52 returnee. Give me a season 51 returnee. Give me a season 53. One of those 3 has to be returnees. You can't just go revert back to another 5 years without returnees because it's been way too long since we've had returnees. New season players are great, but I think the pool is big enough now where we got to start creating new legends of the game. Yeah. So let's hope that the 50s are filled with returnee seasons.
I agree. No, I mean, it should be fun.
All right. Anything else we got, Ryan, for tonight?
No, that was it. I know we packed a lot in here, but we didn't have a preseason podcast, so I thought we would just cram a lot more in. Good premiere. Looking forward to next week. Obviously, just stay tuned to our social media. We'll let you know when we're going to record. It changes sometimes week to week. But overall, Dylan, great thoughts on the premiere.
Yup, and if you're watching this, thank you. Like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Liking the video really helps us out, so go ahead, smash that like button, and we will see you next week for the episode 2 recap.
And for the first time this season in 48, grab your torches and head back to camp.
Good night.